The In This League Podcast Network. In this ring, in this corner, Joe Pisapia. This corner, Tim Heaney. Gentlemen, let's go.
Mania matches that never happened, that we wish happened, that will never happen. So let's start with you, Tim Heaney. Take us through your number 5 to 1.
Just I love both of our lists, by the way. I think we did a great job on
We
these.
did. Well, you know what? I love nothing more than to pat us on the back, and
yeah, exactly.
We deserve it.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. How to recognize Sting versus Undertaker at number 5. Now, you know, there's going to be a lot of talk about quality of match with this one for sure. I think it depended on the era when you got both of them. If you had, say, gotten Sting right after WCW was sold to WWE.
Agreed.
And Undertaker in that great run of, like, you know, WrestleMania 21 through 26 or whatever. So with those incredible HBK matches and Edge and Orton, that could have been a hell of a spectacle.
That would be the only time to do this match. It had to be right away, right after. And we all know that those guys had guaranteed contracts, so everybody sat out. And that's why it never happened. I put on my list, too, was actually my number 4, just because I want no one to talk about it anymore.
That's very true.
Not because I want to see it, because everybody knows I could care less about Sting. I don't, that guy never did it for me. He just never did it for me. Not when he was old school Sting with Ric Flair. I always wanted Ric Flair to beat his ass. Not when he was the Crow, or not when he was the Red Crow in NWO or anything else. I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. I never cared.
I loved Sting's moveset as a kid, and it was great on video games. And I thought there was a time in my life where I was a big Sting guy.
I wanted to have happened so that way no one can long for it anymore.
Okay, that's a fair point. All right. But I think Undertaker in that era would have been just a fantastic foil, because Undertaker was just killer in the ring at that point. Number 4, Bret Hart versus Randy Savage, for obvious reasons.
Yes.
WrestleMania 9 should not have been Yokozuna. I'm sorry.
And it also should have been Hulk Hogan stealing a thunder yet again.
Well, I have my Hulk Hogan critiques. I'll get to that as well. But yes, you know, Savage was robbed. I think that Bret Hart, Randy they have fought before, of course, but not at that stage. And I think, you know, if not for some politics, if not for loving the big sweaty sumo guy, Hart Savage would have just been a killer main event for that for sure. Number 3, Rock versus HBK. I'm surprised I didn't have more HBK on here, but I guess I had to limit it for some reason.
I actually only had one, which is, you know me.
That's weird for you, but it is a good one you had on there. But Rock and HBK apparently had a little bit of heat in real life, because I think HBK and Triple H were kind of trying to keep The Rock down a little bit when he was just starting out, and I think they were kind of, you know, doing click things at that point. So I guess rumor has it that this never happened because Rock wouldn't work with him later on. So shame, because that could have been just, you know, sold so many tickets. That would have main evented a WrestleMania easily. Sure.
You know what? I mean, I would love to have seen it, just because I'd like to see what kind of match that would have been. Shawn Michaels has what's Undertaker's greatest match? What's Chris Jericho's greatest match? What's Kurt Angle's greatest match? They'll all take it. It's always Shawn Michaels. So I'm kind of fascinated to see what that match would have been. Would we have looked back on it as The Rock's greatest match?
And, you know, Hogan was one of his greatest, if not technically greatest, just momentously greatest, because that styles worked so well. I think Rock being the more powerful guy would have really been a nice change for him in this situation.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so number 2.
Speaking of our Hulk Hogan critiques.
Yes. This is also my number 2, by the way.
Yeah, Flair versus Hogan. It's happened. Hasn't happened on the stage it should have.
It happened too late, too.
It happened too late, yes. Can blame both sides for this for sure, but I think Flair probably would have been okay with going over, because he's taken losses when he's needed to in his career, and that's why we love him, because he does know when to pay the crowd off.
Well, if you believe the rumors, Tim, the rumors was that they'd been working this program in house shows.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going over with the crowd, which I don't buy for a second.
Stupid.
I don't buy that for a second at all. If that was the excuse, I think the excuse is probably Flair didn't want a job to Hogan because he knew he was better than him.
Right.
And Vince, and then they said, well, I'm not doing it. Now, I'm trying to remember. He jobbed to Macho Man.
Yes. Well, they split that into a double main event, because Hogan fought Sid Justice in the main event of WrestleMania,
which to be honest,
oh my God.
I right. And you look at those two matches, it's not even close.
Flair Savage was just
Flair Savage is great. And I'm glad it happened because I prefer Flair Savage, but it's my number 2 because of the same, like, I just want it should have happened. And it would have been a great moneymaker and it would have been terrific. And yeah, Hogan would have gone over, but I think it would have been good for Flair anyway.
Right.
But I don't blame him for saying, no, screw it. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe Vince was like, yeah, you know what? We're going to put Rick over. And Hogan's like, no way.
Right. Exactly.
Because that guy's not going to get into this.
I saw Flair and Hogan main event on WCW Monday Nitro in like 2000. Like I had to be before it closed. I think maybe 2000 it was. I went with my friends. This place was still on fire for it. And imagine on a WrestleMania stage, and I think that match ended in a DQ because, of course,
I don't, and that's the problem. You can't have it end in a DQ and that kind of,
right.
It would have been tricky to do, but yeah, I just don't buy the excuse, which it just wasn't working in house shows. No way, no way.
Yeah,
it's just nuts.
Your
number 1.
Number 1 is it's similar vein, but I think there's a little bit more logic to why it didn't happen. I'm just still pissed it never happened. Austin versus Hogan. The biggest, probably the 2 biggest money makers in the history of wrestling. Austin has said that he didn't think the styles would work well, and I think he kind of pointed to Rock versus Hogan as the good technical match there. I still think you can get away with a visual of that, and maybe them not wanting to job to the other one probably is in the cards there, but that needed to be in a ring somewhere. I'm sorry, it's just you need to have that visual, you need to have that event taking place. And if Austin had to drop to Hogan, others have dropped to Hogan. Triple H has dropped to Hogan when Hogan should not have won a match in WWE in his later career. So Austin,
Austin was at a time in his career too where he was the biggest star in the business. Hogan wasn't. And of course, you know what I love? I love nothing more than the Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan match because that's just pure joy. That is Shawn Michaels going, you know what, jerk? I'm just, you think you're a jerk? Hold my beer. I'm going to show you what a real jerk is. I'm going to let you win. I'm going to job for you and make you. I mean, who could do that to that extent? To make somebody to job for somebody, lay down for somebody, and make them look like a complete fool while it happened. That's money right there.
Part of me wants to hate HBK for that, but I can't because of what went on with that match. So
yeah,
and sometimes you got to make a statement, and that's a statement he made.
Yeah, seriously. But all right. So here's my top 5, and I got a fair amount of Hogan in this list as well. My number 5 is Hogan versus Roddy Piper, which is actually the feud.
I am surprised it never happened.
It's the feud that it was built on. In WrestleMania 1, they had to get Mr. T involved and all that crap. So we didn't get the standalone Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan, which is what we should have. That's the idea. That was the feud. Bringing Roddy Piper over to WWF at the time was what helped Hogan get over. He was the foil for Hulk Hogan. And, many will argue there's no Hulk Hogan without Roddy Piper. And at the time, it was all about getting eyeballs. It was all about getting Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T and all these people, and it worked. And so I can't begrudge them, but looking back on it, it's a shame we never got the clean match between the two of them. And it's funny because even WCW too, when the NWO thing happened, Roddy had that second run with him. And Piper, I think, is one of the guys that's just grossly underrated in this business.
I was going to say, that's a very underrated pick right there.
He doesn't get enough credit for how good he was in the ring and how good he was outside of it. We take for granted the whole, this guy has a show and then, it's a KO show or it's a moment of bliss or it's this or it's that. Roddy Piper was the guy. Piper's Pit was the thing. That he was how many wrestlers back in the 80s could host a show? Right. You're lucky if they can get out a sentence, some of these guys.
Oh, amazing on the mic, Piper, for sure.
So the fact that he hosted his own show and stuff, I think it's just sad when I look back on it that feud didn't culminate in WrestleMania 1 the way it should be because of, star power and box office and all that. So there you go. My number 4, as I said, was Undertaker versus Sting for this, same reason of just so no one can talk about it anymore. Everyone can goo themselves and watch it a million times. Number 3, Triple H versus CM Punk.
Another good one.
I love when two guys who don't like each other but are really good at what they do go work together. There's nothing better than that because I think there's a little bit of a real mean streak in that kind of match. And I think they're both so proficient that it would have been a terrific match. And to have it at a WrestleMania, And of course, if it happens now at any point in time, if he comes back, it'll be fun, but it won't be what it could have been 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that would have been great, right?
I mean, I loved Punk's work, so as much as I disagree with other things about him, I loved his.
What's your definitive CM Punk match? Because I wasn't watching as much during that era. We talking like CM Punk Edge? We talking like
no, CM Punk John Cena for the belt when he was leaving, when he was walking away with the belts. That was just spectacular. The Money in the Bank match.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and watch that one. I want to watch more CM Punk so I could see exactly. I've seen
Punk
some.
and Cena, really. I mean, the one night stand match was really good too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go watch some more. I've seen some one-offs. I like some of the stuff I saw him and Edge do.
Yeah, they did good stuff too. The Jericho Punk was okay. Just all the stuff with Daniel Bryan when Daniel Bryan was just the good technical Bryan Danielson type were nice.
Oh, speaking of Bryan Danielson, I watched the Nigel McGuinness documentary.
Yeah, I've yet to get around to that
on the network. It was good. It's really good.
I hear it's good.
And I knew nothing about him really. Like, to be honest, I just didn't. Like I knew he was in Ring of Honor, and that was about it. But what a story, and kind of a tortured guy still. Like in a lot of ways, he's not over it. And I don't know. It's definitely being the smarky guy that you are. You are going to love it. I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's another one of these bittersweet kind of stories, but fascinating dude, fascinating story. One that I knew very little about. And if you're a wrestling fan, go watch it. I think they should keep pumping out more of these documentaries. They really are good. They do a really good job. They got a great production team at WWE, the network. They should just a million of these. Every month there should be a new one. Like, seriously.
Nigel should have been way more famous. It's just a twist and turns, man. It's
bad timing and everything else as well. Yep. And my number 2 was Flair and Hogan, as we talked about earlier. So we're gonna skip that one. My number 1, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero. That's the one I wanted to see. To me, that would have been one of the all-time great WrestleMania matches. And those two guys being the bravado, being the tacticians, being the high flyer, everything that they were, I can't imagine that match not bringing the house down. And I believe that was basically the concept going into that year, and it was discussed about what are we going to lay out for the year. And after WrestleMania is over, they always kind of lay out what they're going to do for the following year. And I guess that was kind of in the discussions after those meetings, and then a couple of days later, that's when Eddie passed away. So, a shame for sure. But that was my number 1.
That would have. Oh my God, a purist would have.
Yeah, well, that's why I went that. Because I looked at some of these lists and I looked around at what some other people said, and I saw that one. I went, yeah, that's the one. That's the one that, I want to say the one that I want to watch over and over again. Some of these are iconic because of Flair, Hogan, Undertaker, Sting, but then there's some you're like, just from a wrestling purist standpoint, that's the one to me that I wanted to see. So,
yeah, for sure.
You had some honorable mentions in here, which was good. Stone Cold, Triple H. You never got Triple H and Rock at a WrestleMania. You got it at SummerSlam.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good one.
And those guys worked really well together, but you never got that. Eddie Guerrero versus Benoit. That would have been fun. Cena versus Undertaker.
not the abomination they had last year.
No, but not that. Actual, 10 years ago.
Right, exactly.
And Shawn Michaels Bret Hart rematch post Montreal.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
I would have loved to have seen a Bret Hart Chris Jericho match too.
Yeah, well, the Hart Dungeon stuff would have been nice.
Because those are two guys that kind of passed in the wind.
Yep.
Where you could have gotten, Jericho left and then came to WWE a couple years after, and you never really got that crossover. And to have that at a WrestleMania would have been pretty cool. Like these two great Canadian wrestlers kind of going at it. I would have enjoyed that. That would have been another one of those fanboy matches I would have enjoyed.
For sure. We needed a second Bret versus Mr. McMahon match as well.
Well, what's funny too? We didn't, I looked at it and I was trying to think of different guys. We've been blessed. We got a lot of these matches over the years, and a lot of great feuds. And with Shawn, it's you're hard pressed because he's fought everybody. So that's why it was hard for him. I was looking for one, and I saw Eddie and I went, yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And you're right. The Rock would have been a good one too. But if you had a choice, you could only see one. Which would it be?
Oh, Eddie, of course. Because,
he
passed away. It's, never a chance on that one. So
there you go. I'm glad he's staying retired because I know there's a lot of buzz about him fighting this year, and I'm glad it didn't happen. Go get your payday, Shawn. I respect that. Go get your payday in Saudi Arabia. Go ahead, do what you got to do. Make $2 million. I'm all for that. I would do the same thing if I were you. But those don't count anyway.
he's busy helping NXT be the greatest. So,
and he is, man. Let me tell you, you watch those matches. I'll ttell you what, Mia Yim and Shayna Baszler had a great match the other night too.
I have to catch up on that.
Yeah, you got to catch up on your NXT, and if you haven't out there, make sure you do also. It's been terrific. So that'll do it for us.
We have to talk about that and a million other things next week. So
yeah. So look, we're gonna do. Look, next week's gonna be a huge show. So huge show. We're gonna do our NXT Takeover preview. We're gonna do our WrestleMania preview. It's gonna be a big, long, action spectacular, and then we'll have our breakdown recap show afterwards and all the aftermath from WrestleMania. So this is it. This is WrestleMania season. We are in wrestling season, and
we have not pointed to the sign, though, much.
Well, you know what? It hasn't been nearly as much point to the sign. There's been more just standing in front of the sign, which I like a lot better, Tim.
It's natural, yes.
Stand in front of the sign, take your picture taken with the sign.
Smile at the sign longingly.
Don't point to the sign like the angry monkey in Family Guy. You just don't want to do
the side.
Point to the side. But anyway, we'll be pointing to the sign next week because all signs are pointing to WrestleMania. You can follow us on Twitter at InThisRing, at Joe Pisapia17, and at Tim_Heaney. Check out all the great content at In This League and join the ITL Army as well. Remember, you can listen to In This Ring on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everywhere. We are there because we are the best, and that puts this one in the books. So remember, kids, to be the men, you gotta beat the men, and we are the men. Woo! No way!